Thank you. Hi, folks. So I guess this is my third time here. I did the Highwaymen maybe a year ago, and I did Johnny Cash earlier this year. And I've been traveling all around doing this an awful lot. This is my third concert in 24 hours, and yesterday afternoon I did the Highwaymen, Johnny Cash last night, and now the history of country music, and then I'm going out to Central Mass right after this and doing another one tonight. But busy is good, folks. Busy is good. So when I've gone around and I've done these concerts, I talk to a lot of people who who love kind of classic country music and the Highwaymen, if you aren't familiar, were Johnny Cash, Willie Nelson, Waylon Jennings, and Chris Christopherson. And then obviously the Johnny Cash's stuff that I did earlier this year. I try to mix in some of the songs of the Carter family and June Carter when I do that. But there's just so many great artists, a lot of whom are kind of being forgotten with time, because I was just joking with someone before I started that I have two teenage daughters, and they always say, "Dad, do you listen to anybody who is still alive musically?" And I was like, "Well, I listen to Willie." So for the next hour, I'm going to try to tell you some stories that you'll hopefully find interesting, and play some music that you'll hopefully not think is terrible. And even though I was here last time doing Johnny Cash, it would be ridiculous to not play at least one of his songs. So this is Folsom Prison. I hear the train a-comin', it's rolling round the bend. I ain't seen the sunshine since, well, I don't know when. Well, I'm stuck in Folsom Prison, time's dragging on. But that train's on the road, on down to San Antonio. When I was just a baby, my mama told me, son, always be a good boy, don't ever play with guns. Well, I shot a man in the wheel just to watch him die. When I hear that whistle blow, I hang my head and I cry. I bet there's rich folks eating from a fancy dining car, probably drinking coffee, oh, smoking big cigars. Well, I know I had it coming, I know I can't lose. Oh, but those people keep on moving, and that's what well, if they freed me from this prison, and if that railroad train was mine, I guess I'd move it on a little farther down the line. Far from Folsom Prison, that's where I wanna stay. Oh, and I let that lonesome whistle blow my blues away. Thank you very much. It's great to be back here. I probably mentioned this the last time I was here. I'm a guy who spends an inordinate amount of time in senior centers and libraries, and this is one of the best. You guys got a really good deal. I would not move because there's some really, really lousy ones too. I just got back from Nashville, and I performed at a club down there called City Winery, doing the songs of the Highwaymen. And as part of the promotion for that, I got to do their local television affiliate down there, for their NBC affiliate, has a morning show called Today in Nashville. And so I got to go on there and perform a couple of songs. And it was a kind of funny experience because so I did a song, and then there was a guest, and then there was and then I got to do a second song, and the guest was this woman by the name of Leanne Morgan, and she just released a new stand-up special on Netflix, and she was performing that night at the Ryman Auditorium, which is where the Grand Ole Opry was. So a really good gig, you know. I, meanwhile, had just come from a library that I was playing in the basement of that had a big bucket collecting water in a Home Depot bucket because there was a pipe right next to me. And I was performing to 12 people, and I was like, "That's much different than the Ryman Auditorium." But the one of the things when you do a television show is you can't do songs by people other. If you didn't write the song, you can't perform it on network television or whatever. So I did a song of my own, but I also wanted to do something to, because I was doing the Highwaymen. I wanted to be able to do a song that to help promote that concert. And the song "Will the Circle Be Unbroken" was written in 1907. It was a Christian hymn originally. And because it's over 100 years old, it is in the public domain, so anybody can play it. And so I did that song. The song was initially made famous by the Carter family, June Carter's mother and her family, in 1935. It is a song that virtually every country artist has performed at one point or another. Willie still plays it almost every single night. Johnny Cash played it all the time. And then every year when the Hall of Fame, the Country Music Hall of Fame has their induction ceremony, all of the members of the Country Hall of Fame that are present that night, they all get up on stage and they sing that song to close out the night. And so this is that song. I was standing by my window on a cold and cloudy day when I saw the hearse come rolling for to carry my mother away. Will the circle be unbroken by and by, Lord, by and by? There's a better home awaiting in the sky, Lord, in the sky. Well, I went home was lonely, for my mother, she was gone. All my family, they were crying, for our home felt sad. Will the circle be unbroken by and by, Lord, by and by? There's a better home awaiting in the sky, Lord, in the sky. Undertaker, 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 please drive slow. I hate to see her go. The circle, the unbroken, bye bye, Lord, by and by. There's a bed on the way in the sky, Lord, in the sky. There's a bed on the way in the sky, Lord, in the sky. In the sky, Lord, in the sky. Thank you very much. Thank you, guys. Thank you very much. So it's impossible to do the history of country music and not include some songs that were performed by women. So I'd ask you to just close your eyes and pretend I'm Patsy Cline. Crazy is considered the most played song in the history of jukeboxes, and I'm never really too sure how they came up with that, but sounds right. And Willie Nelson wrote Crazy for Patsy Cline in the late 1950s. Willie was just starting out as a songwriter at that point. That would have been 60, a lot of years ago. And Willie was playing it for some friends in Nashville. And one of the friends that was there was the husband of Patsy Cline. And he heard the song and he said, "We got to go home and wake up Patsy and play this song for her." And Willie was all nervous to go over there and do that. And it's hard to imagine Willie nervous about anything, but this was a while back. And they went over, and he came in and played the song for her. And she heard it, and she didn't love it, and she wasn't sure if it was the right song for her. But they rearranged it a little bit, and it worked out pretty good for everybody involved. Perhaps the most famous song in country music, certainly one of them. Crazy. I'm crazy for feeling so lonely. Crazy. Crazy for feeling so blue. I knew you'd love me as long as you wanted. And then someday you'd leave me for somebody new. Worry, why do I let myself worry? Wondering what in the world did I do? Crazy for thinking that my love could hold you. Crazy for crying, crazy for trying. I'm crazy for loving. Crazy for crying, crazy for trying. I'm crazy for loving. Thank you. I did that song a while back, and a woman came up to me after the concert, and she said, "Here's $20. I want to buy the book you wrote about the Highwaymen. Here's $10. I want to buy the CD of the songs of the Highwaymen that you did. I did not like your version of Patsy Cline's Crazy." I totally took her money. So, there's so many places to. There's obviously an awful long history of classic country music, and there's still some great acts, modern music that's being made that is really rooted in the history of of some of these real greats of the past. And it's hard to try to fit all of that into an hour, obviously. But you also can't do an hour of classic country music and not include Hank Williams. Hank Williams died when he was 29 years old, and it's wild to think of how much he fit into that short period of time. I forget how old Patsy Cline was, but she wasn't much older than that when she died in a plane crash. And the the songs of Hank Williams live on the same way that Johnny Cash songs live on, and the influence that he had on so many is remarkable. His son Hank Williams Jr. would obviously go on to be a big country star as well. He has a grandson by the name of Hank III, who is one of my favorite. He's a terrific songwriter. And then I just saw recently that there's a Hank IV, so I don't know how many future Hanks there will be. But this is a song that I imagine most people will. Your cheating heart will make you weep. You'll cry and cry and try to sleep, but sleep won't come the whole night through. Your cheating heart will tell on you when tears come down like falling rain. You'll toss around and call my name. You'll walk the floor the way I do. Your cheating heart will tell on. Your cheating heart will pine someday and crave the love that you threw away. The time will come when you'll be blue. Your cheating heart will tell on you when tears come down like falling rain. You'll toss around and call my name. You'll walk the floor the way I do. Your cheating heart will tell on you. Your cheating heart will tell on you. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. The next song I'm going to do is a song by the great Merle Haggard. Merle Haggard is one of my very favorite singers, and the amount of he had 30 number one hit songs on the country charts through the years. And for those of you that might not be familiar, and I may have told this story the last time I was here when I did the Johnny Cash stuff, and I played at a senior center recently, and I said I might have told this story the last time I was here. And the lady said, I can't, one of the ladies in the audience said, I can't remember what you played 15 minutes ago. You're good. So, yeah. Merle Haggard, between the ages of 14 and 21, was incarcerated in a number of juvenile lockups and then adult prisons, and he ended up at San Quentin prison. And while he was there, Johnny Cash came and performed a concert. And Merle saw him and said, yeah, I think I'll get out of here and just go be Johnny Cash. That seems like a pretty good job. And like I said, he had 30 number one country hits. He had more number ones than Willie, more number ones than Johnny Cash, more number ones than Hank Williams. And just had a perfect singing voice. And it's funny in this day and age when you can just go and Google anything about anyone and find out about them that he got out of San Quentin prison, and then like a year later he's on to Grand Ole Opry, and nobody knows where he'd just come from. And he was concerned about it, and he was concerned that there would be some backlash, that eventually people would find out. And so he didn't know Johnny Cash. He didn't meet Johnny Cash when he saw him perform in prison, but he did get to know them after he became a star. And he went to Cash and he said, I don't know what I should do. And Cash said, you should come clean. You should tell everybody your history, and that's what he did. And I think it was a big thing for the history of country music because Merle really wrote from the perspective of people that he met behind bars, people that he grew up in. He grew up very poor out in California. The song "Okie from Muskogee," which is maybe his most famous song, was about his family who had moved out to California from Oklahoma, and were very, very poor. He lived in a train car that they'd converted into a home. This is where he grew up, and then his dad passed away when he was 9 years old. So he saw an awful lot of hard times. Merle might have been Willie Nelson's best friend. He was certainly one of them, and they did an awful lot of stuff together. And I'm not sure you can have a better singing voice than Merle Haggard. This is a song I love playing called "Swingin' Door." This old smoke-filled bar is something I'm not used to, but I gave up my home to see you satisfied, and I just called to let you know where I'll be living. It's not much, but I feel welcome here inside. Well, I've got swinging doors, a jukebox, and a bar stool, and my new home has a flashing neon sign. Stop by and see me anytime you want to, 'cause I'm always here at home till closing time. I've got everything I need to drive me crazy. I've got everything I need to lose my mind. And in here, the atmosphere is just right for a party. And thanks to you, I'm always here till closing time. Well, I've got swinging doors, a jukebox, and a bar stool, and my new home has a flashing neon sign. Stop by and see me anytime you want to, 'cause I'm always here at home till closing time. 'Cause I'm always here at home till closing time. Thank you very much. Thank you. That was the great Merle Haggard. It's funny to look back. I remember I moved to Texas when I was like 9 years old, 1981. We lived in Foxborough. Side note, I had a fake ID when I was in high school, and my address was Walpole, and it was is it Center Street or Common Street? Which one's the main? Yeah. So I lived at 173 Common Street. according to that. And so I was just driving up here, and I was trying to figure out which house it was that I that I fake lived at. But I feel like I remember it was a graveyard. So I'm going to spend some more time doing that after I leave here. Anyways, that has nothing to do with this. My dad was the biggest music lover that I know, and I spent a lot of time around a lot of people that love music. And he was a rock and roll guy through and through, and I remember clear as day being 9 years old, and my dad spent hours recording cassette tapes of WBCN so that when we got to Texas, he would have something to listen to, because he didn't think there would be any rock and roll stations down there. And there really weren't. Even in Austin, there really weren't any rock and roll stations that you could listen to. And similarly, there wasn't a whole lot of country options up here to listen to. There was, one or two stations, but it wasn't, it wasn't nearly the way it is today. And when I was down there, I remember just kind of noticing, everywhere you looked. This was 1981, 1982. So Willie Nelson was just the biggest thing around, and it was like 5 years ago going around this area, and everywhere you look, you see Tom Brady or Gronk. It was like Willie was that person in Austin. So I didn't listen to his music back then, but I was always kind of intrigued by him. The next song I'm going to do is a song that was written by the great Texas songwriter by the name of Townes Van Zandt. He wrote this song, and a few different people have done it. Emmylou Harris did it, a beautiful version of it. And Townes was one of my very favorite songwriters. But Merle and Willie were making an album together, and maybe some of you know this, but Willie made a movie in like the late 70s or early 80s in Texas, and they built a saloon, they built a church, they built this whole set. And when it was done, he just said, you know what, I'm just going to buy this whole area and make this my home. And to this day, it's called Luck, Texas. And he built a golf course, and he's got everything he needs. And he always says, when you're here, you're in luck, and when you're not here, you're out of luck. And anyways, he had a recording studio there, and Merle was with Willie, and they've been recording, and according to Merle, they'd been up for 3 days straight, which sounds like it makes sense. It was the 1970s. And Merle went to sleep, and they didn't have that one hit song that they were looking for. And Willie's daughter was a huge fan of Townes Van Zandt, and she said, Dad, I've got this song that I think you should check out called Pancho and Lefty that Townes wrote. And Willie heard it, and he said, yeah, let's record that right this second. And Merle was sound asleep on his bus. And then at some point in the middle of the night, they woke up Merle, and they said, Merle, come on out. You got to sing your part. And so he dragged him out. He came out. He did his part. He went back to sleep, and he woke up the next morning, or probably afternoon if I were to guess. And he said, Willie, I got to do that vocal track again. I mean, I was dead asleep. And Willie said, sorry, it's too late. We already mailed the tapes to New York, and they're getting mastered right now. And it would go on to be arguably the biggest hit of both of their careers. This is Pancho and Lefty. Living on the road, my friend, gonna keep you free and clean. Now you wear your skin like iron, and your breast hard as kerosene. Weren't your mama's only boy, but her favorite one at sea. She began to cry when you said goodbye. Sang it to a tree. Pancho was a bandit boy, rode a horse fast as polished steel, wore his guns outside his pants for all the honest world. Pancho met his match, you know, in the deserts down in Mexico. Nobody heard his dying word, but that's the way it goes. On the Feather Alley safe, they could have had him any Lefty, he can't sing the blues all night long like he used to. But does that poncho bit down south, ended up in Lefty's mouth. The day they laid old Poncho low, Lefty split for Ohio, where he got the bread to go. There ain't nobody knows. All the federales say they could have had him any day. They only let him slip away. Out of kindness, I suppose. Poets sing how Pancho fell, Lefty's living in a cheap hotel. The desert's quiet and Cleveland's cold, so the story ends where it's told. Pancho needs your prayers, it's true. Save a few for Lefty too. They only did what they had to do. Now he's growing old. All the federales say they could have had him. They only let him go so long. Out of kindness, I suppose. A few old gray federales say they could have had him. They only let him go so long. Out of kindness, I suppose. Thank you. Thank you very much. I want to thank Deb and the Senior Center for having me. I spent 20 years working in the corporate world and doing music at night and hating every single day of my time in the corporate world. And, you know, I got to say, there's not any bars I would venture to guess that I could be playing at 1 o'clock in the afternoon on a Thursday that would have this many people here. And I feel like if there was a bar like that, it's probably not one I want to be in. So thank you. It is nice to not have to work, and this is a ridiculous job that I get to do, and I'm incredibly grateful. The next song I'm going to do is a song that was written by Lefty Frizzell. Lefty Frizzell is one of the greatest singers of all time, and he released the song Long Black Veil in 1959. And it was a huge hit for him. It is a song that has been covered by virtually everybody, but Johnny Cash has that way of when he sings a song, it often becomes his song, and he performed this both at Folsom Prison and also at live at San Quentin. But Lefty Frizzell had a huge amount of hit songs, and he died very young as well. I think he was 44, 45 years old when he died. And had been drugs and alcohol had taken him many years before that. He really had a short window of time where he cranked out a bunch of great songs. Perfect singer. He was someone that heavily influenced folks like George Jones and Merle Haggard and Keith Whitley and some of the other guys that came along later. This is about as good a murder ballad as you can write. 10 years ago, on a cold, dark night, there was someone killed beneath the town hall light. There were few at the scene. They all agreed that the slayer who ran look a lot like me. The judge said, son, what is your alibi? If you were somewhere else, you won't have to die. I spoke not a word, though it meant my life, for I had been in the arms of my best friend's wife. She walks these hills in a long black veil. She visits my grave when the night wind waves. Nobody knows, nobody sees, nobody knows but me. The scaffold is high, an eternity near. She stood in the crowd, shed not a tear, but sometimes at night, when the cold wind blew in a long black veil, she cries over my bones. She walks these hills in a long black veil. She visits my grave when the night wind waves. Nobody knows, nobody sees, nobody knows but me. Nobody knows but me. Nobody knows but me. Thank you very much. Thank you. That's a nice cheery one for you. I'm going to play a song. I'm going to play a snippet of a song because I don't really know how to play this song, but I'm going to explain to you why I'm going to play this song, and then it'll maybe make sense. So as I said, my dad was the biggest music lover around, and my stepmother is here today, and I'm not going to point her out because I don't know if she'll be embarrassed, but trust me, she's here. I saw her, so they I was old. I was like 28, 29 when they met, and so my dad would have been about in his mid-50s at that point, and so they went on their very first date. And I used to play in a really noisy rock and roll band back in the day, and so did my wife. And we were playing a gig tonight. Her and I hadn't got together yet, and I was going on at 11 o'clock at night, and my wife's band went on at midnight at this bar that was, maybe a third of the size of this room in here. And my dad thought it would be a good idea to take his first date there, and it was just the loudest thing you could imagine, and God love Carol, she decided that was not that bad, and stuck around. And my dad passed away a few years ago, and they couldn't have had less in common musically. And every time I talk to my dad or see him, he'd be sending me texts with new songs that he was hearing on Spotify or Pandora or whatever, and till the end he was always just finding songs that he loved. And his wife Carol would make him do things like go see Kenny Rodgers and the Righteous Brothers. And if she ever had any doubt that he loved her, the fact that he attended those concerts is all she needed to know. So in honor of her being here. She has not seen me do this before, so she loves her some Kenny Rogers. I'm just going to do a little snippet of it. You got no when to hold, no when to hold, no when to walk, no when to run. You never can. You're sitting at the table, every time enough for count. When the food's there. That's all you get. Thank you. You know, it's funny when you go back and listen to some of these artists from, you know, especially in the '60s when Elvis, you know, had come along prior to that, and then the Beatles and Rolling Stones came along. You know, country music became uncool, and even down south, though. You know, there was this real breakthrough with Elvis really, you know, crossed all boundaries musically, and so a lot of those guys were stars, but they weren't selling records anywhere near the type of numbers that a lot of the pop and rock bands at that time were. And one of the songs that did cross over is a song that was written by Hank Cochran and a guy by the name of Harlan Howard. And I'm going to again ask you to pretend I'm Patsy Cline. It's going to get easier as we go along. Harlan Howard wrote a whole bunch of great songs. The song I'm going to do is a song called I Fall to Pieces. But he also wrote a song called She Got You, She's Got You, that Patsy Cline made famous. Make the World Go Away, which was a huge hit for Eddie Arnold. Hank Cochran had quite a life. He was, by the time he turned 3, Cochran had pneumonia, whooping cough, measles, and the mumps. And then when he was 9 years old, his parents split up and he was placed in an orphanage. He ran away from that orphanage. He thought he was going to Los Angeles, but he actually was going in the wrong direction and ended up in Nashville, which I think kind of worked out for him. Like all country musicians back then, he was married 5 times, which, as far as I can tell, is a requirement from the little gathering of information I've done. But this is I Fall. I fall to pieces each time I see you again. I fall to pieces. How can I be just your friend? You want me to act like we've never kissed. You want me to forget, pretend we've never met. And I try, and I've tried, but I haven't yet. You walk by, I fall. Each time someone speaks your name, I fall to pieces. Time only adds to the flame. You tell me to find someone else to love, someone who'll love me too. the way you used to do. But each time I go out with someone new, you walk by, I fall to pieces. You walk by, I fall to pieces. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'll do a few more. I bet this will tell me. The next song I want to do is a song by Ray Price. The song was written by Chris Christopherson, and Ray Price had a really interesting career. He started out as a part of Hank Williams' band, and also was his road manager. Hank Williams was just a really, really out of control guy, so he would sometimes become the singer when Hank wasn't really able to sing on certain nights. And then Hank passed away, and the band didn't know what to do, and so they didn't have any other options, so they decided to just keep on playing, and Ray Price would become the singer of that band. And then he would go on and have his own career, and just had that beautiful voice. It's funny how music, when you would have the kind of the classic crooners like Sinatra and Tony Bennett and folks like that, that Ray Price was kind of that for country music. He started out as a pretty traditional country act, but as he got older, he really kind of showed off the voice that he had, and would use string arrangements. And this song, like I said, was written by Chris Christopherson and was one of his biggest hits. It's one quick funny story about Ray Price, and then I'll stop talking. In the 80s, maybe even later than the 80s, might have been early 90s, but at some point, Merle and Willie made an album together, and they were going to go out on tour. And Ray Price was like that rare guy that was he was married for 60 years to the same woman. He never got arrested, or he was just like a decent, nice, normal guy apparently. And he made a fortune and decided to move to Texas, and he bought a big ranch, and he had cattle, and he just was content in retirement. And Merle and Willie had the idea of having him do some songs with them, and so he came and recorded the songs with them, and then they said, "Hey, Ray, why don't you come out on tour with us?" And Ray was like, "Sure." He was 60 something at that point, and but he didn't have anything better to do, and he said, "Sure." And so he would go out first, and then Merle and Willie would come out afterwards, and they were playing to a much younger audience, most of whom had no idea who Ray Price was. But every night he would come out and just absolutely blow the doors off the place, and everyone was just infatuated with the voice of Ray. And I remember reading Merle Haggard's book. Merle said they would just sit there on the side of the stage just in awe of all these young folks who had no idea who he was, and just his ability to sing. This song is called For the Good Times. Don't look so sad, I know it's over, but life goes on. This whole world will keep on turning. Let's just be glad we had some time to spend together. There's no need to watch the bridges that were built. Lay your head upon my pillow. Hold your warm and tender body close to mine. Hear the whisper of the raindrops soft against the window. Make believe you love me one more time. For the good time, I'll get along. You'll find another. I'll be you. You should find you ever. Don't say a word about tomorrow or forever. There'll be time enough for sadness when you lay your head upon my pillow. Hold your warm and tender body close to mine. Hear the whisper of the raindrops blowing soft against the window. And make believe you love me one more time. For the good time. Thank you very much. Number of artists have recorded that. Ray Price's version, I think, was probably the most famous, but like I said earlier, it was written by Chris Christopherson. I'm going to do one more song for you. I just want to mention I have business cards up here, or a mailing list if anybody's interested. And you're like, this was free and it wasn't that bad, and I could potentially do it again if it was in a nearby location. I'm going to be in like every single town around here in the months ahead. So like I said earlier, I wrote a book about the Highwaymen. It's not David McCullough's deep dive on John Adams. It is stories and anecdotes that I've picked up along the way about these. About the Highwaymen, and I also have a CD as well about doing the songs of the Highwaymen, which is flawless, folks, because that's what recording studios do. Willie Nelson turned 90 years old 2 weeks ago. I was fortunate that I got to go down to Newport, Rhode Island, and play at a small theater down there and do Willie songs all night, which doesn't really seem like work. Willie had a 2-day concert out in Hollywood at the Hollywood Bowl with a who's who of great musicians. Chris Christopherson made his first appearance in a number of years. He's 87 or 88 now. And Chris came out and sang a song with Roseanne Cash. And it was just a cast of thousands that came out and performed. Willie Nelson and Keith Richards and Willie Nelson did a song called Live Forever, which I kind of loved because I remember seeing a meme that was supposed to be like a fake quote from Willie that said, the youngsters of today are going to have to think about the world they want to leave Keith Richards and I when they're gone. And I thought that was kind of on point. Willie's coming to Great Woods this summer, I think. In September he's coming. And I just want to tell this Willie Nelson story, and then I'll stop talking again, and then I'll start playing again. I went to school at UMass Lowell, and when I was like 21 years old, I guess, there used to be this really, really sketchy bar up there called the Abbey Road. And back then, the Hells Angels had a chapter in Lowell, and they had kind of their clubhouse was across the street from the club. And so we'd play for like 3 hours on a Friday night or Saturday night. And invariably, they would roll in at some point, and invariably, I was petrified the entire time. We were a three-piece band. I sang all the songs, played guitar. So if they had questions for the band, I was that guy that they would ask questions of. And it was a different environment than a senior center, I would say. And and so I remember went and saw Willie perform live right around that time, and for the first time at the Lowell Memorial Auditorium. And I remember my bass player and I were sitting there, and there was a row of Hell's Angels in front of us, and Willie is doing, Always on My Mind or Crazy or some ballad of his. And like when you go on your first date when you're young and like you go to the movies and the guy does that thing where he's like, he does that move. They all started doing that when Always on My Mind came on, and then all of a sudden they were like dancing in the aisle, like slow dancing with their wives or girlfriends. And I remember my bass player turned to me. He's like, "I didn't know Hell's Angels danced." And but that's kind of the power of Willie, I think. And God love him. I hope he lives to be another. I look forward to playing his 100th birthday party and 110th, and it feels like that might actually happen. And so this is On the Road Again. Thank you very much for coming to listen. On the road again. I just can't wait to get on the road again. The life I love is making music with my friends. I can't wait to get on the road again. On the road again. Going places I ain't never been. Seeing things that I may never see again. I can't wait to get on the road again. On the road again. Like a band of gypsies and we go down the highway. We're the best of friends, insisting that the world keep turning out. And our way is on the road. But I just can't wait to get on the road again. The life I love is making music with my friends. I can't wait to get on the road. Road again, like a band of gypsies and we go down the highway. We're the best of friends, insisting that the world keep turning out. And our way is on the road again. I just can't wait to get on the road again. The life I love is making music with my friends. I can't wait to get on the road again. I can't wait to get on the road. Thank you very much, folks. Thank you very much. Thank you. Have an awesome day.